Hello and welcome to Cult Classic Society, the podcast where I, Bobby Davies, and my good buddy Tim Martini
Hello.
go through all the films, the television, the games, the books, the comic books you love, we love. We're all going to have a nice little chat about them. How are you, Timothy?
I'm doing really good. The summer weather is still not improving, but we're going to fight through it and we're going to just keep going on this podcast because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that sounded very sarcastic as I said it. No, I genuinely mean it.
I love doing this, man. It's not nice.
No, I do love doing this podcast.
This time round, we're going to look at Detectorists, the BBC One, I'm going to say it, hit comedy. Written, created, starring Mackenzie Crook. Also starring the awesome Toby Jones. I love Toby Jones. Everything he touches, he's just brilliant at. He also won a Best Male Performance in a Comedy BAFTA for this.
I can see why.
Series 3 won a Best Comedy Award. Yeah, I mean, this is just awesome. Mackenzie Crook wrote this because he is a detectorist in real life.
Oh.
It's one of his hobbies. And apparently his character in this, Andy, appears in a game called Lake, which I have not played and not heard of, but...
Yeah, I never heard of that, but cool.
Cool. That's how... But, you know, one of the characters appeared in a video game. That's cool, right?
From my limited research of this,
Yeah.
I glanced at a Wikipedia page just so I can make sure I was looking up the right show. This was originally BBC 4 and then got bumped up to BBC 1.
Yeah. And replayed as well, yeah.
The only other show I recall going from like digital to analog from the world of BBC was Gavin and Stacey.
Yeah, that was BBC 3, right?
Yeah, BBC 3 to BBC 2. So to go from 4 to 1, that's for our American listeners, I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but that is a massive deal in the world of TV because not many like people who use BBC even venture to BBC 4.
So to kind of explain it, BBC 4 is kind of niche, often documentaries.
They would sometimes
kind of
show the
stuff.
old Doctor Who's on there. So it's almost like the death zone for like sitcoms and stuff.
It's almost
like
considered the more highbrow channel, but that isn't a place where you'd send a sitcom, no.
No,
BBC 3.
BBC 3 would be, because that's where shows like Russell Howard's Good News got to start. They got moved to like BBC 2. Same with, as we just said, Gavin and Stacey. Torchwood was on there as well.
Yeah.
So it's very like, it's where they put their more experimental stuff. So for that jump, that is a big deal. It's like moving out of the death zone on cable TV. Is the best way to put it. From the 11 p.m. slot to like the prime time slot. I think that's the best way to put it.
It's insane. I don't even know like how you can describe why it is. It's we're obviously going to get into it. But there's something so beautifully understated about this comedy. It's really intelligent. But the characters are realistic. It's great, and I think anyone who has been watching along will see why it did so well.
I would imagine so, yeah.
So we're going to start Series 1, Episode 1. In the quiet, idyllic British countryside. We got Andy, played by Mackenzie Crook, and Lance, played by Toby Jones. What are they doing?
They're metal detecting.
They are. They're out in the field with their metal detectors. Lance asks Andy if he's found anything. He says, fuck all. 3 shotguns and a Blakey. I don't even know what a Blakey is. 3 shotgun shells and a Blakey. Lance gets excited and he pulls up a ring pull.
From an 83 Tizer.
Yeah, and Andy asks, why are you excited about this? He's like, people buy this shit.
I believe it.
Yeah, and he calls them sad, which is the kind of almost the ironic first joke. So they're sad for buying this shit, because you're the guys that are out in the field for hours fucking looking for it.
So I've never understood the hobby of metal detecting, because whilst we're establishing this show as they go along, like they almost fancy themselves like archaeologists.
Amateur archaeologists,
yeah. But most of the time when they grab shit, it is just junk.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't see myself committing to something like that, you know what I mean?
I feel like it's something someone your age would be like, nah. And your age another 10 years, you're like, oh, maybe not this, but a hobby like this, maybe.
No, I'm too busy just like going on TikTok and playing Pokemon Go, you know? I have no time for metal detecting.
I feel like it fits in with the same kind of thing as like geocaching.
Yes.
Or like magnet fishing.
Geocaching, I can understand more because that's like a fun game of hide and seek.
Yeah, but I feel like you're going to find similar crossover with the kind of people who do it.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. They talk about University Challenge, which is one of their regular topics these two discuss. Lance says he was too scared to say an answer out loud, even when he was alone, so it doesn't count.
He said, I nearly got an answer right.
And Andy questions how. And he's like, I just didn't say it out loud, and it doesn't count if you don't say it out loud. They decide they're not going to go to the club on Thursday. They haven't explained what the club is yet, but we'll get to that in a minute. Because there's an exciting talk about buttons. Lance talks about his ex-wife who we're going to meeet.
His
fairly
beautiful battle axe.
And yeah, he makes a joke about that. He said, I once found this beautiful battle axe. I married her.
And she left him for the manager of Pizza Hut.
She did indeed. So it comes from somewhere between a joke to actual character development.
Yeah.
Andy says, well, you've told that one before. So Sophie arrives, played by Amy Fionn Edwards. And the only thing I recognise her from is she was in Skins.
Oh.
She was in one of the later series, not the original.
Oh, okay.
And her character was a straight girl who fell in love with a gay guy, so she tried to masculinise herself. That's all I remember. It's a very vague memory.
Interesting.
She asks Lance and Andy, are you metal detectors? And he's like, no, we're metal detectorists, which is an ongoing joke almost every episode. Andy says he doesn't sell his finds, he doesn't agree with it, and Lance chastises him for that.
Yeah, he's just constantly trying to put Andy down in front of Sophie. But as we later discover, Andy has a girlfriend, so...
Yeah, they're both double their age. More than in Lance's case, I think.
Yeah.
Andy's studying for an archaeology degree, and they tell Sophie about the DMDC, the Danebury Metal Detecting Club, which is where they were saying they were going to go to later.
Yes.
Sophie says she'll go to the talk about buttons, and they both change their minds. Like
Yeah.
sad middle-aged men.
Yeah.
She is half their age.
She makes them feel young.
Andy comes home and finds Becky, but he's come straight from the pub, and Becky is a bit upset that she wasn't invited.
Yeah.
Even though she thinks Lance is a bit of a dick.
I mean, she's not wrong.
No, yeah, he is a bit of a dick. Becky is played by Rachel Sterling, and we don't see in the first 3 episodes we're going to see, but her mum is played by Dame Diana Rigg.
Oh.
They are real-life mother and daughter,
Oh, amazing.
which is nice. And it's not the first time they've played mother and daughter on screen either.
Really?
They were in an episode of Matt Smith's Doctor Who era, The Crimson Horror. It's the one where they all turn red, and they play mother and daughter in that as well.
Oh. Oh.
Cool, right?
She's the blind girl.
Yes.
Oh. You guys can't see, but my eyes have widened because I didn't realise.
Nice, right? Good little factoid for you.
Yeah. I was going to say, Andy and Becky, they're just so cute together.
They are, yeah. They're
I
adorable.
genuinely have to search up, are they actually like married or anything?
No, they're not.
Because the chemistry is just so good.
I think they're friends in real life.
Yeah.
But they're not. Andy says they didn't turn up much in their metal detecting, just a ring pull. He did find a Victorian penny, but she's not interested in any of that. He does... This is like... I think this is the kind of thing you don't see in a lot of TV shows and movies. They have a real kind of dorky couple moment.
Yeah.
Where he looks just... They're kind of talking quite sincerely. And because he's a guy, he just looks down her top.
Yeah.
Like pulls her top back and looks down at her. But they've long-time partners, live together. She just goes with it. Like, that's such a long-term older couple thing
Honestly,
to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then it goes to Lance going into a shop and tries to awkwardly flirt with the shop owner. And this is when I go, oh, it's his ex-wife.
Yep. His ex-wife, Mags, played by Lucy Benjamin. Yeah. She used to be in EastEnders like 20 years ago.
Never watched EastEnders.
I did 20 years ago. My mum watched it when I lived at home.
Fair.
And this is where you realise how much of a cuck Lance is.
Pretty much.
He offers to bring Mags' copy of Purple Rain.
Yes.
And she's like, what? But obviously the Prince album.
Yeah.
Apparently he loves that song. She loves the song When Doves Cry. Lucy Benjamin, she does a great job here. She plays this hippy-dippy kind of airhead quite well.
Yeah.
She calls out her new boyfriend, who's played by Andy Ricks, who is about 2 foot taller than her. He is famed for doing like characters.
Yeah.
And he does. Have you watched 8 Out of 10 Cats Does Countdown?
Yes.
Have you seen the episodes where someone's pretending to be Sean Bean?
Oh, yeah.
That's him.
Yeah.
That's Andy Ricks. Yeah. It's he does kind of character bits. Very good in this role as well. I like him.
I was going to say, like, compared to how Lance is, I could see why she left him.
Yeah, I mean, we find out as it goes on that Tony, that's the character's name,
Yeah.
sorry, her boyfriend, is a bit of a dick. Like,
Yeah.
more of a dick than Lance. Lance is kind of a smart ass.
Yeah.
He's just a full-on...
Bastard.
There is a line that we don't get to. I think it's in episode 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I'll drop it at the end. But it's very good. Lance lies and pretends he's got a girlfriend.
Yeah.
He buys a candle, but then basically runs out of the shop,
Just bins it.
dumps it straight in the bin. Right outside the shop as well. She's going to find that, surely.
Yeah.
We cut to Andy, and he's cleaning a hospital, and he finds a button. There's obviously considering going to the
talk on
club
buttons,
meeting.
yeah.
He calls Lance and says he's going to go to the meeting, and Lance calls him out on just wanting to see Sophie. We kind of get Lance's job here. He's a forklift driver
Yes.
at a fruit and veg place, and his interactions with his boss that come across in especially this first series make me laugh a lot, because he just shouts, it was like, can I do this and that, and then can I go home? And they're like, yep. He invites Andy over for a curry before their meeting. Andy calls Becky and says, do you want to come to the curry and the meeting with me? And she's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Do I want to go to that? You know I don't want to go to either. You just feel guilty about not inviting me to the pub. Lance steals all the veg for his curry.
I know, he steals inventory.
Yeah, he steals it from the crates, but then he also finds a loose lettuce
Yeah.
or it might have been a cabbage or something, but under the trucks,
Yeah.
which comes back into play in a bit. Now, Lance has a vintage yellow sports car.
Yes.
A little fact about the sports car?
Sure.
It's Mackenzie Crook's car.
Of course it is.
A lot like in our Evil Dead episode, Sam Raimi
classic.
bringing in his car.
The good old
Mackenzie
classic.
Crook has dropped his own car in
Yeah.
there. Andy comes to Lance's flat, and Lance is wearing this awful apron. Just a bikini girl
Yeah.
with camouflage, a bandolier of bullets on it.
I love the time where Andy goes, something smells, and Lance goes, delicious? No, just smells.
And then he says, he's saying like nice tits or something to
Yeah.
him as well. Very good. For some reason, we find out that Lance is composting, even though he's only got a flat.
Yeah.
Andy questions that, but you know. He also asks about the tyre track that's on the
the
lettuce
lettuce
leaf,
leaf, yeah.
which is great. And he goes, and he says, what is this? And he holds up the lettuce leaf with the tyre track, and Lance just says the brand of the tyre
Yeah.
and the model number. Like, he's an unbelievable dork.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
He's clearly into cars and metal detecting. They're his things.
Yes.
Lance has been using Google Maps and Google Earth to try and find out the right spots they need to detect, because there's a rumoured INA settlement. And he thinks he's found a potential roundhouse, and then another one next to it, and another one that's got like an extra entrance. And Andy points out something. What does he point out to him?
Google. It's the Google Earth watermark.
There is no INA settlement, it's just a watermark. Andy says he was fooled by this, but realised in 15 seconds.
But apparently Andy has done some actual research.
Yes, Andy. We obviously at this point he's the more academic of the two. He's
Yes.
doing an archaeology degree. Lance is a hobbyist for sure.
Exactly.
Andy wants to find a Saxon hoard, but they've only got like some vague ideas where they think it might be. So they head off to the meeting.
No, so there's a line that they like going, oh, this will be the Holy Grail of finds. The Holy Grail is a Holy Grail of finds. It's going, actually, if you're being pedantic, the Ark of the Covenant is a Holy Grail of finds.
Well, yeah, they're being double. This is where you find out their friendship is full of sarcasm.
Yeah,
But they also kind of love that about each other. It's the thing that Becky hates.
exactly.
They go to the DC meeting, and we see Terry's talk on buttons, and even his own wife, Sheila, who we meet in a second, has fallen asleep while listening to it. Terry doesn't realise that everyone's fallen asleep somehow. He just keeps going on, then turns on the lights. He's like, any questions? No. We're all very bored. They discuss other clubs muscling in on their permissions.
Territory.
They use the word permissions, which I think must be their lingo for the sites they're allowed to talk to look on. And one of the lines from the character's called Russell. He's got the long beard. He says, "It's those wankers from the Antiquisearchers." Like, just unbelievably British about it. Just everyone's a wanker. We find out that the Antiquisearchers are officially linked to the museum. Sophie arrives, and Terry offers to recap his button talker. They're all like, no.
Also, they say, like, we're not allowing anyone to join now. And then Sophie comes in, it's like, yeah, you can join.
Fucking neckbeards, man. The middle-aged neckbeards over here.
The guy, like, one of the guys, like, behind Andy and Lance offers Sophie a seat, but she completely ignores it.
Is that Hugh?
I think so, yeah, Hugh.
Hugh's great.
It's completely ignores it.
I haven't got his name down, actually. I should. But he's in a really great film called Lion with Dev Patel.
I've heard of that, yes.
And so it's based on a true story. Oh, we'll have to cover it. It's very good. Don't. I won't
I'll
spoil
watch
too
it.
much. But he plays his brother. He plays Dev Patel's brother.
Oh, okay.
It's very good. They find out who the land belongs to that Andy wants to search. And it turns out that it's owned by a farmer whose wife went missing. And Terry used to be a policeman.
Yes.
And he's determined that this man killed his wife and buried her on the land, but they've never been able to find it.
Yeah.
They couldn't get a warrant because there wasn't enough evidence. Sophie wants to go out on a search with them, but Lance says that they can't go out because he's got to take Mags and her mum to bingo.
Yeah.
Sophie asks about Andy, and he says he's not married, which is a dick move. Which, although true, is a dick move. Lance questions this.
Yeah, it's like, why didn't you mention it? Like, well, I was going to, but we got interrupted. Like, you would have said it immediately.
Yes. He's like, I wasn't lying, but not telling the truth either. They get last orders. This is where I was like, this reminds me of being younger than they are. They've already got full pints in the last orders book, so they go get another one.
Yeah.
I was like, lads. Becky and Andy are sat on the sofa, and Becky winds him up about fancying Fiona Bruce.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought was really funny.
He's like, no, she's just disgusting.
Yeah, turn her off. She makes me feel sick. Which I thought was really funny.
She says, like, you spend more time with Lance than me.
Yes, so Becky is a little jealous of Lance and Andy's friendship, because Andy says he can't make lunch with Becky's sister because if they get the permission, he's definitely going to go on to metal detect straight after.
Yeah.
Cut to, this is a classic Lance. This line, I think, really shows who Lance is. Becky and Andy at the end of that scene say they're going to watch QI. Then it cuts to Lance saying, "Did you hear this?" And he's like, "I knew it was on before it was on QI. It just reminded me."
Yeah.
Lance says he'll do all the talking because Andy's awkward. And, well, they're both pretty awkward.
Yeah.
And who do we meet now?
Farmer Bishop.
Larry. Don't call him Mr. Bishop. Larry. He always insists that he gets called Larry.
He's a kooky man.
Yeah, he doesn't understand what they're really asking. He offers them tea and then complains about the dogs. It says all the dogs are getting in the way, and there's no dogs.
There's no dogs there.
It's all a bit weird. Larry's never given anyone permission to detect on his land, but there was an archaeological dig that got cancelled because of the Second World War.
Yes.
He says they've got permission, but they have to stay out of a certain paddock.
Yes.
Which is obviously slightly creepy.
There's nothing there. There's nothing there.
So Andy and Lance obviously go to detect straight away.
Yeah.
And they're convinced they're going to find something there. And Lance does an impression. Did you catch this?
No.
Does an impression of Del Boy from Only Fools and Horses. Says this time next year we'll be millionaires. Andy wants to mark it out properly because he's an archaeologist with a grid and do it by square so they don't miss anything. And Lance says, "Fuck that, let's go."
I know.
And they just kind of delve into it. Lance finds something instantly. What does he find?
It's a biscuit wrapper.
From 1975.
And Andy just looks so defeated.
Like, they really thought the first thing they got found on here was going to be a coin on gold or something.
Oh, exactly.
That's episode 1. What do you think, Tim?
It's fun. Well, obviously, because this is a show where each episode builds off each other, so right now this is like just getting everything introed.
Yeah, getting all the ducks in a line.
Yeah, I'm liking it. I think use some more wrestling terminology here. I think I was getting too worked by Lance. I found him too annoying.
Really?
Like,
you grow to love him.
I hope so, because like I'm just watching going, Andy, like if Andy just like did it by himself or convinced Becky to do it with him, he'd had so much more fun doing it. I
don't know. I think there's a bromance between those two that can't be understated. They love each other, those two.
I think so. At some point it just doesn't come, because Lance just finds the person who will always make a joke about someone, but then hates it when a joke is made about him.
He takes jokes pretty well coming up there. I don't know. I've never seen Lance that way. Maybe because I love Toby Jones though. I've always liked the character.
I've always loved Toby. I love Toby Jones too, and I think he's so good of an actor. Maybe he was too good.
He's actually worked you, yeah. He's done a Christian and he's worked you fully.
He's kicking out his daughter. Don't touch the belt.
So we're going to jump into episode 2, and how does it start? The same way all the episodes start of this.
Detectoring.
Landy, I was going to call him. Andy and Lance are detecting, but they're on their new permission this time. They're on Larry's farm. And
Andy finds a Matchbox car. Doesn't think it makes sense.
It's like in the middle of a farmer's field, buried. Why is there a Matchbox car? And he gets incensed. Lance tells a story about a detectorist that was struck by lightning. And then what does Lance find while he's detecting?
It's a Pontiac Firebird.
Another Matchbox car.
Before he grabs it, he says the best finds appear right before a thunderstorm.
They're sitting... I love their little conversations they have when they're having a break.
Yeah.
From the detecting. So they're sat on their own, normally in a field or on a tree or something like that. And they have these little silly conversations, quite often about television.
Yeah.
And as the stories progress and get deeper, they tend to start talking about life as well. And they're kind of arcing picture, but they still normally start with like a conversation about the thing they watched the night before on television. Yeah. Lance compliments his own coffee. Lance starts to ask a question and Andy cuts him off. And all Lance says is which, and he gets cut off by Andy going, Twin Peaks. Like, so you don't know what the question was going to be.
Yeah.
That's how much time these two spend together. That's how in sync they are. Lance says he wants to get the band back together. And Andy doesn't remember them being in a band. They played once. Lance insists it was twice, but Andy's still like, I don't remember this.
Yeah.
And we get an introduction of a couple of new characters.
The competitor detectorists. So they are the
Antique researchers.
Yeah, antique researchers.
And who do they look like?
Simon and Garfunkel.
They do look like Simon and Garfunkel.
One of them, I forgot his name, it's the taller one. He was a recurring actor, like one of the main actors on the Horrible History show on CBBC.
So was the guy who plays Tony, Mags's boyfriend.
Oh yes,
he was in it a lot as well. The guy, what I know, the guy I can't remember his name. Sorry, guy who plays. He's not really called Garfunkel. He's Phil. Is the character's name ends up being. He played. Did you ever watch the Mighty Boosh?
Yes.
He was in the Flighty Zeus.
Oh yes,
Zeus or whatever they were called. He was the Howard Moon equivalent.
He's in the current show Ghosts on BBC.
I haven't watched that yet, but that's on my list actually.
Yeah.
That looks quite good. They're another pair of detectorists. Lance slates Garfunkel's detector.
Yeah.
Says he could find it in an antique shop. This is where I think. So this is what I like about Lance. Because he doesn't give a shit. So he's just like ripping someone he's never met before.
Yeah.
I like that this kind of shows they bicker with other. Because it's like clearly a hot thing to impede on each other's searches.
Yeah.
And if someone gets there before you, that pisses you off.
I just don't understand why there's like rival groups.
Well, because if there is gold.
I know, but they're not really like reaping rewards from it. They're more like just like giving it away to get benefits. And why don't they all just form one super group and then they all get the benefits?
Well, they find in a later episode, none of these characters, but someone on the telly finds a gold with a metal detector and becomes a millionaire, and they're jealous. So yeah, there is. I think there is money to be made here.
That's why we're gonna get metal detectors and we're gonna do this.
Lance and Andy tell Phil, the guy who looks like Garfunkel, that they've got an agreement with Farmer Bishop to split anything they find 50-50.
Yeah.
Which is quite good. So if they find gold, 50% of gold, that's not bad.
Yeah, exactly.
And Phil says, we'll have to see if we can make Farmer Bishop a more attractive proposition. And Andy says, who are you, a Bond villain?
Yeah.
What I like about their jokes is they're not like super witty and super cutting. They're realistic. They're the kind of things that you would say.
Exactly. That's like nice little snapbacks.
Yeah. Lance says, sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry. And Phil defends and says, it's hay fever.
Hay fever, yeah.
And as Phil and, well, we'll call them Simon and Garfunkel are walking away, Lance constantly shouts, didn't mean to make you cry. He's like, I'm not crying. It's hay fever. We actually also later find out, though, that the guy, the shorter guy, his name is Paul. So like Paul Simon. But the shorter guy isn't Art. He's Phil.
So Andy decides
I really hope, I really hope actual detectorists of this territorial.
Yes. Be hilarious.
It would be. I'd love to watch it.
Exactly. So Andy goes to Larry to tell him to not hire any rogue detectorists.
Yeah.
I just love that terminology. And then
Tells them they actually give them a name later, and they're called Nighthawks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he makes a reference. So Larry makes a reference to his wife's name, and he goes, "Is that your wife?" Like, where?
Yeah. Yeah, Larry. So that says to me already. Now I know, unless he's super mad, his wife is definitely alive because he's worried about her showing back up again, even though everyone else thinks she's dead. Larry throws a stick for dogs that just don't come.
Exactly.
Again. Lance is helping Mags unload a delivery.
Yeah.
Mags encourages Lance with the music, getting the band, quote unquote, back together. And she says a really horrible thing to him that's meant to be nice. I used to love when you played your mandolin. Reminded me of Kermit.
Yeah.
That's not a compliment. Tony isn't helping with the delivery because he's herniated a disc and he's a dick.
Yes.
Tony asks about Lance playing at the pub, and Lance kind of doesn't say whether he's going to do it or not.
Yeah.
Tony just says he's going back to bed. Lazy prick.
But then he also asks Maggie to come to the pub to watch them perform.
Yeah, so this is where you start to see he's still, like, we already knew it anyway, but
Yeah.
he's still clearly in love with Mags. Andy is waiting for Becky at school. So, sorry, I say at school. She works at a school. She's a teacher.
She works at a primary school.
And Andy is waiting outside, just reading his messages on his phone, just chilling.
Yeah.
And the police, there's some women outside, obviously mothers, and they're talking to a policeman, and the policeman comes and questions him. Are you taking some photos there? So it's like, no, I'm just looking at my messages. What are you doing here? I'm just waiting for my girlfriend. What class is she in? And I can't remember what he says.
I think he said the chafing class. Or
Chaffinch.
Chaffing,
That's it, yeah.
That's it. Chaffing class.
They said, how old is she or something? And then Andy realises what's going on. They think he's a paedophile.
He's like, no, she's a teacher.
She's the teacher. And he says, oh, sorry, sir, I was making some of the mums nervous. And Becky comes out.
And he goes, do I look like a paedophile?
And she says, I think you look more like a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Andy. What a horrible moment. Imagine if he was just a dad of someone at the school as well.
Exactly.
Andy tells Becky about the band getting back together to play at the pub, and she thinks this is hilarious, and he does not want her to come.
No. I mean, I would... Because we didn't even mention what the name of the band was. Fanny Magnets.
Oh, yes, they call themselves Fanny Magnets.
That was clearly Lance's name.
Oh, yeah, he definitely come up with that. Oh, no, at this point, actually, he's asking Becky to come for moral support. Sorry, he tries to stop her later, and...
Later, he tries to stop her in the next episode.
Yeah. Becky says, I can't come, I've got 30 stories to read and mark. Imagine their little faces if I said I went to the pub instead. And what's his response? Fuck 'em.
Yeah.
Andy has got another temp job cutting some grass.
Yes.
And he finds a frog and puts it in his pocket, and we never find out what happens to that frog.
No.
But I'm assuming he just takes it somewhere, because he's portrayed as a nice character, so
Yeah.
I'm assuming he just goes and puts it in a pond.
Yeah, that's what I'm
it's
assuming.
It's on a grass verge between two roads.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you got to think he's just trying to help.
Yeah.
Lance calls Andy and asks if he likes Swedes and invites him over.
A sweet surprise. What's the surprise? How bland it is.
Surprisingly bland. Andy's about to knock on the fish tank, and Lance says, don't do that, that stresses them out.
I wasn't going to.
Andy denies he was going to do it, despite the fact his finger was cocked an inch away from the glass. The other side was a fish.
I'm ready to go.
Lance says he's going to back out of playing the song because he can't play while standing up.
He has to sit cross-legged because that's how he practiced.
Andy says, I've built myself up to do it now. Let me just hear it anyway. Lance sits down and plays the song, and it's actually quite good, but clearly about his ex-wife.
It's an obvious song.
Yeah. And he says, I'm actually astounded that it's quite good.
Yeah.
And he said, Lance says, it's astoundingly good. No. I'm just astounded that it's
That's
quite
good.
good. Yeah. They're going to go to the meeting, and they're talking about different detectors.
Yeah.
Sophie is there.
And she mentions the dig site.
Yeah, so she already knows more than they thought she was going to know.
Yeah, but because Lance suspects Andy told her.
And Andy doesn't remember telling her.
Yeah. Well, because he didn't.
Because he didn't. There was a fatality at the DMDC 3 years ago, we find out.
Yes. Didn't he accidentally step on a landmine?
No, they don't tell you what it is, actually, I don't think.
Okay.
Andy and Lance lie to Terry, say they're still doing research because they want to be the ones to find anything first time. So they've already detected, and they're lying about that. Their finds table is amazing. It's got the two cars they found earlier. Spoon from Little Chef. Terry's quite upset about this. Andy and Sophie go for a little walk after they leave. They're going to the pub. I think, obviously, Lance is just ahead of them.
Yeah.
Sophie realises Andy's actually smart because she's a uni student doing archaeology.
Yeah.
And she thought they were all just like silly hobbyists, but he's obviously doing a similar thing. He's doing a degree.
Is this when he complains about the name Antiquities?
The Antique Researchers, yeah. Just they're two words rammed together.
Yes, but antique and researchers together.
It doesn't make any sense. There's not even a wordplay. There's not a pun. Lance practices how he's going to introduce the song. It's all a little bit tragic.
It's like you can tell he's madly still in love with Maggie.
Do you start feeling for Lance yet at this point?
I felt bad for him because he clearly has not seen that Maggie has moved on.
Or he has, and he's just not accepting it, I think, is the problem. But you start feeling more for the character now, because you said you didn't like him.
Like, I still feel for him, but I still think, in a way, he's kind of sort of a dick. But, like, he's also just someone who's hurt.
Yeah, you kind of see, I think it's quite clever writing by Mackenzie Crook, that clearly the way, the reason Lance is closed off and he's quippy is because he's probably in a fragile state in that respect.
Yes.
Andy tells Becky about the song and she thinks it's hilarious. She mocks, this is really great, she mocks Andy for always staring at the floor and missing stuff that's actually ahead of him, because he's always looking for, like, trinkets.
I was finding this quite mean, because I felt like she was pulling, like, an insecurity of Andy's. He wasn't, like, laughing it off. He looked quite sad. You know when like someone makes a joke, it's upset and they keep going. They're not realizing.
It is a little, it's a little pushy, but I think when you're in a long-term couple,
Yeah.
you can point out your partner's foibles.
Yeah.
Because she's not like going ha 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 ha,
Yeah.
pointing at him. She's giggling along, pointing out his little furball, and she's
Yeah.
actually being quite close to him.
Yeah.
And I think she's trying to bring him in on the joke, but he's just having none of it. You are right, he's not happy about it.
Yeah.
But she's not wrong,
Yeah.
because it cuts to them metal detecting.
And the planes just fly over.
There's a red arrow flyover of 7 planes, and they completely miss it.
Because Sophie's like, oh, was that for me? Like, was what for you?
Sophie arrives with some notes about where the stuff could be, but no one remembers telling her where the permission is.
Yeah, and Lance is still just like, you told her when we were on the walk. It's like, no, I didn't.
They keep finding loads of nails on the ground, obviously setting their detectors off. And at this point, it's suspicious. Sophie thinks the Saxon King is not buried where they're checking. Lance disagrees. Says the reference that she's using is overrated. And as they're in the middle of this argument, who does Lance spot?
The antique researchers.
Simon and Garfunkel are hiding in the grass.
Just literally prone in the grass.
Now, this is the bit that I thought might be thinking, because this is only, the first year is only 2014, not that long ago. And they constantly make kind of homophobic jokes towards them.
Yeah.
Because he walks over to them and says, "Morning, ladies, having a cuddle," which is, I think none of it is like aggressive, but it's very dated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like horrible, because I still feel like comedies now would still make that kind of joke.
Don't get me. That's what I mean. It's not aggressive.
Yeah,
It's
not,
definitely not aggressive.
It's not like we're like going, oh, we're going to put you down because you're gay. It's just more just like...
There are 2 hetero men who are spending a lot of time together, so you're going to wind them up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Lance pretends to call the police on Simon and Garfunkel.
And he's like, I know you're not really on the phone. I know you're not really on the phone.
And when he points out that they look like Simon and Garfunkel on the phone, they both look surprised, which I find really funny.
Like, no one's made that comparison before.
Sophie looks confused, quote unquote. And Larry arrives saying, "Don't worry, the dogs are friendly. There's still no dogs."
Exactly.
Larry has bought trinkets that were found when the fields were being ploughed 40 years ago, I think he says.
Yes.
And Lance looks shocked, but doesn't tell them what they are.
Yeah.
Because it's gold, as we find out in a second. Larry does tell them not to go down to that paddock.
Yeah.
Andy and Sophie say they have to tell Larry the truth, but Lance is like, nah.
Yeah.
We'll tell him later. And also, they also don't need to report it because they never found it.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to find loopholes.
Lance says the field will be... the field, as in the grass field, will be filled, as in full of, researchers that will ruin their finds.
Exactly.
Lance defends what he's saying by saying, we have no responsibility, we didn't find it. And what does he find straight away?
One final Matchbox car.
Just the last one. There's a really great shot here, though, from inside the hole.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. He's also got this little probe metal detector, which I quite like. Because we see Andy later, and he doesn't have one. He pulls out clumps of dirt and just puts them underneath his big one.
Yeah, exactly.
I like Lance's little one. Lance has got like a little flak jacket that's filled with gizmos and gadgets.
It's like
these little magnifying glasses.
It's a massive hobby to Lance, so he takes it really seriously, while Andy does it because it's fueling his research.
Well, I think also Andy might have more, but his skin. Whereas forklift drivers get paid well. I think Mackenzie Crook was very clever in choosing that job for Lance.
Yeah.
Because it's not heavily involved, it's not strictly academic, but it's a skilled job that gets paid well. Yeah. Which shows you Lance's lifestyle, how he can afford.
Don't they say that Lance has a more superior model to
Andy's. He's also got several. He hasn't just got one either.
He's not minted, but he has enough to...
He's a single man with a flat who has a well-paid job.
Yeah.
It's... It kind of... There's a very subtle going... This is why he can afford this stuff because he's got this very skilled manual labour job. And there's a little note here that I liked. In the credits, they're actually called, because they haven't given them names yet, the 2 antique researchers, the credits are attributed to Paul and Art because they haven't given the characters' names yet, or haven't revealed the characters' names. They obviously don't want to spoil that. What do you think? Episode 2?
I thought it was a good one.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think everything's like something to build up.
I feel like we've introduced almost all the characters now, because we added the extra layer of Simon and Garfunkel.
Yes.
And we added Mags and Tony.
Exactly.
You've kind of almost got the world now.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's like, it's all coming in, and now like, as was in that next episode, it all just layers on top of each other. And
yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
Episode 3, how do we open?
I had to rewind this just as a preface because I had to double check
what happened. Episode 2.
know that what that was. So Andy's metal detecting, and he picks up a Jim will fix it badge.
Yes, he does.
And are we allowed to talk about this?
Well, this is after all the scandal.
I know, but
So it's a joke where...
I know, but are we allowed to talk about this? Like, do we want to explain to people who might not get the joke?
If any of our non-UK based listeners are listening, Jimmy Savile was a very horrible man who was a TV presenter, and he wasn't outed for all the horrible things he did till after he died. He presented a show called Jim Will Fix It, and you used to get a medal that said Jim fixed it for me if you were on it. If you really want to know the horrible shit he did, you can Google Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
If you don't, just know he was a horrible, horrible man.
Thank you, because I don't want to go into detail.
No, me either.
So Andy has the appropriate response. Throws it away.
Just throws it back into the field. Because there's another episode later on that we haven't covered in here, but they find a blankety blank checkbook, which is in a weird way a similar ilk from a bygone TV show.
Yeah.
And they say that obviously they can sell that online. But there's no way you're selling this.
Yeah, exactly.
And if anyone's going to buy it, they're clearly a miserable prick.
Exactly.
Lance and Andy want Larry to remember where the gold was tied up. They're chatting to themselves about this, but he can't remember. Lance is worried and he tells Andy to keep his voice down. And Andy just shouts, "There was gold found here 40 years ago. There's no one for 2 miles around." And then what does Andy find?
He finds some coins, doesn't he?
He finds 20p.
Yeah. But then they go to the pub and Andy pays with dirty coins.
Yeah, so there's later episodes where Lance says, "Oh, I found like 13 quid in this field in coins from like a car boot sale or whatever." So this is often the thing, they clearly find modern coins quite regularly.
Well, I think that's the thing that happens, like you're just walking through the fields, might change just falls out your pocket.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's see some of my favourites. So Andy's a vegetarian, but he's eating pork scratchings.
Because he thinks they're just pork flavoured, like something like smoky bacon crisps or something.
Or like, was it Razzles?
Razzles,
yes.
Yeah.
And he's like, and so like Lance says, "No, it's fried pig skin." He's like, "What? When did this happen?" Like, it's always been like that.
So he's always eating those.
Yeah.
And Becky seems intelligent as well. Well, she's obviously intelligent.
Yeah, but maybe he hasn't eaten them around her. Maybe it's like a post.
Yeah.
Like
we've seen he doesn't always invite her to the pub.
Exactly.
So they've explained here that the gig they're going to do quite quick is an open mic night.
Yeah.
But Lance still can't stand up. And he says, it might be my thing. Like, there's,
my gimmick.
Yeah, my gimmick. And Andy thinks this is pretentious.
Yeah.
He says it's not pretentious because if I'm doing it and I can stand up, that's pretentious, but I can't.
It's a fair point.
It is, I get that. Simon and Garfunkel come in, and they somehow know about the gold that Larry has got.
Obviously, because Andy shouted it.
Obviously. And they were like hiding in the bushes.
So he gives them 12 days to report.
But he even knows that Larry showed them.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is very... so they were either very close or they bugged something.
Yes.
He claims they have no responsibility to sell, and they're arguing about that. They still deny they know about it, which is really great. Paul talks for the first time. And
Christ, he can talk.
And it's like, "Are you going to get in trouble?" You spoke. Again, they're referred to as a couple again.
Yeah.
They haven't figured out who the rat is, which is silly of them.
My favorite is when Paul leaves, like, "You always like to have the last word, don't you?" And Lance goes, "No."
That's a good little joke. Lance and Andy say they need to get the whole DMDC involved because the quicker they can search before possibly the permission gets taken away, obviously the more they can find. They go to Terry's house and he's sorting his buttons, which is obviously he's got an obsession with buttons. Sheila predicts that they're going to arrive. This is never elaborated on again.
I thought she was just because I saw her looking towards the door.
Oh, maybe she was looking towards the door.
I think it's just a translucent door, so she just saw the shape of the people, but didn't know who they were.
Yeah, because she describes them as two arriving, one short and one thin.
Yeah,
which is an apt description of the two.
Yeah, so I think she just saw their silhouettes.
No, maybe yeah. Terry tells them that he's reordering his coins, and this really reminds me of Lance even says it later about women not understanding men's hobbies, but. You haven't watched High Fidelity yet, but we are going to watch it as part of this. It's on my list, and the main character in that, he sits and reorders his record collection multiple times.
Really?
Yeah. This really reminded me of that, the men's hobbyist.
Yeah.
Reorganising their collection.
I was going to say, so when they start making the plan on how to they're going to go to the food and everything, it's just quick cuts between close-ups of each other.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
It's filmed so weirdly, but it's almost disorienting in a weird way. But I like it.
I think it's because they're throwing information as well at the
Yeah.
same time. Because they tell Terry about the gold, and he just wants to know what happened to Larry's wife. That ex-copper in him is still
Yeah.
coming out. They have to keep putting it off till various reasons, till like the Friday.
Yeah.
And if that was me, I genuinely couldn't wait that long. I'd be
No.
like, let's just all go individually. The
Exactly.
days we can't go, you don't go, but I'm going.
Exactly.
That's so dumb. Just go. Sheila makes them homemade lemonade, and it's so lemony they basically can't function.
Exactly. I just remember the Simpsons episode
But
with
they eat the lemon. They're
Yeah.
Shelbyville. They go to Shelbyville. Lance visits Mags's shop,
and she can't remember being told about the show.
but she comes out adjusting her dress, saying she's just been in the back. He bought her a copy of Purple Rain, like he said he would in the
Yeah.
first episode, and she's like, can't remember that either.
And we see that Tony's naked in the back of the shop.
When she says she can't remember about the gig, Lance nearly says fuck Tony, but he says forget Tony. And what does Mags ask Lance to do when he leaves?
Flip over the close sign.
So they can keep fucking. I still don't think Lance realised, which is weird. Like, he's just clearly blocking it out.
Yeah, I think he's in denial. Like, I think he knows something's happening, he just doesn't want to
Yeah.
accept it.
Lance and Andy practice their song with Andy playing guitar.
Yes.
Lance decides he doesn't want to do it anymore. I think they're sounding alright, though.
Yeah, I just don't think they just don't want to do it.
There's a quite harsh cut here, though. Andy says he's looking forward to it to clearly bring his friend back up. And what happens?
Just cuts to him holding a bottle of wine to Becky saying, please don't come. It's going to be awful.
You're going to go off of me.
I burst out laughing when I saw it. I couldn't stop laughing.
No, I think Andy is a bit shit to Becky, but I don't think there's any intention behind it most of the time. I think he's so involved in his hobby,
Yeah.
and he's so thankful that he's got her.
Yeah.
He's like, if she sees the worst of me, this is going to be bad.
And she already knows the worst of
Yeah.
him. He's a metal detectorist.
Andy and Lance show up in the pub with their gear, ready to do their little gig.
Yeah.
Lance asks Andy if he's met Tony, Mags's boyfriend, and he goes, massive knob. And
Has he?
Has he? And he's like, no, he is one.
That's so good.
That's such a good joke. Lance says he's posted about the gig on Facebook, and that's when Andy really gets worried.
Yeah.
Because people might show up, and a particular duo show up.
Yeah. It's like, and this is when they start to realise, oh no, we're in the Antique Researchers pub.
Yeah, so it seems that each of them have got a pub,
Yeah.
and they've realised that they're directly opposite the WI, which is
Yeah.
where they meet on a Thursday.
Sophie enters and she says hi to someone, and then Andy responds, thinking it's to him, obviously, and then she goes, "Oh, you're here." It's like, "Yeah, you're here for the gig." Yes, the gig.
The gig, yes, definitely.
The gig that I am here for.
Andy has a line here. It's a reference to something else. Did you catch it? He says, it's a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Oh, the Star Wars
It's
reference.
a Star Wars reference. Now, this is if, as a viewer, if you didn't get that Sophie was part of the enemy now, you must do now, right? Up to
Yeah,
this point.
yeah.
The DMD all show up, all DMDC all show up at once, and now they have to do their song
They
because
have
there's a
to.
million people.
But Becky is at home and she has something in a pharmacy bag.
And she looks annoyed.
Yes. Because it is a pregnancy test.
And she looks very upset about the result.
Yeah. So, someone else performed on the open mic night first. John Pipers,
Yes,
who is actually, I know this fact, he actually is the guy who sings the main titles.
he is because it's the same song, right?
Yeah. Just sings the longer version, you know?
Yeah. It's a song, so he's actually a friend of Mackenzie Crook's,
Yeah.
he's an artist, and Mackenzie just asked him to write a song. So this song is custom written for the show, but there is a long version of it, and it's a nice little song.
I think it's nice,
It would
yeah.
fit nicely on something like the Garden State soundtrack.
Yeah.
The MC for this open mic night is shit.
Oh, yeah.
We see Becky taking the test, and also see that she finds something in Andy's clothes. She finds Sophie's number written on a beer mat.
Oh. Interesting.
She looks worried, and presumably she's seen a lady's number written down in a pocket of Andy's, and she's got a positive pregnancy test.
And she has been denied to come to the open night night.
Yeah, so she thinks, putting all these pieces together,
Yes.
she's thinking Andy's cheating on her. Lance and Andy get on stage, and Lance puts a stool on the stage with a pillow on it and sits cross-legged.
He does look like Kermit.
Mackenzie Crook is left-handed, and it's upsetting me. I don't know why. Playing guitar left-handed looks
Devil
it
spawn.
just looks weird. Because I've got like some of my friends are left-handed, and they all play guitar right-handed. I don't know why. So the people who actually fully go for it and play it left-handed, I respect them and also find it weird.
If I make a video of this clip, I'll flip it for you.
Thanks. The DMDC actually look impressed at the song.
Yeah.
I've said here actually, this song could fit on the Gardens, their song that is, could fit on the Garden State soundtrack or the Juno soundtrack. I can see that would work.
Yep, definitely.
Sophie holds Andy's hand after they come off as a sort of a well done and a comfort.
Yeah.
And what happens?
Becky walks in and is not happy.
Oh, that's awkward, man.
So Andy's like, I'll get you a drink, blah, blah, blah. And
she asks for an orange juice, which is also weird.
But as he's doing that, Becky's like, yeah, I'm just going to go home, actually, blah, blah. Walks back and just seen that Becky has clearly thrown a drink at Sophie.
We actually find out in the next episode, or the episode after, it's definitely Series 1, that it's 3 pints.
She threw 3 pints on her.
Just dropped them on her. So in a future episode, I won't... are you going to watch it?
I'll probably watch it.
I won't spoil it too much, but they're going to a pub quiz, and Andy wants Sophie and Becky to get along.
Yeah.
And we find out that Sophie says, it was 3 pints she dropped. No, Becky says, oh, I'm really sorry, I've dropped 3 pints on your head. It was an accident. And then Andy asks, anyone want a drink? And he points at Sophie and says, pint? And she goes, 3, please. So they're both quipping back and forth at each other.
Yeah, so he chases after her going, oh shit. She's like, yeah, you're clearly cheating on me.
Well, Becky isn't having any of it.
Yeah.
Because of the clues linked together. Quite rightly because of the clues. And he has been a bit shady. But we do know that he hasn't done anything.
No, he's just stupid.
Yeah. The DMDC meet on the site. Well, they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Except just Terry shows up.
Yeah.
And he goes straight to the place where he was told not to go.
Yeah. It's like, you two go to where you're meant to go and I'll go there. Plausible deniability.
I haven't spoke to him. I'll pretend that I didn't know.
Yes. So he just clearly wants to solve the unsolved case.
Yes. Terry gives them a walkie-talkie and they take the piss.
Yeah.
There's a montage of them all detecting. And Lance and Andy talk about Mastermind. And so, apparently someone says a kangaroo is the official bird of New Zealand, which is really funny. Especially as I'm very good friends with an Australian and he would hate that.
Hey, Mini-Matt.
Oh, he doesn't listen. Although Keely listens and they work together, so Keely, you can tell him. Lance and Andy call in to Terry to call it a day.
Yeah.
And Terry actually actively waits for Lance to say over before he stops listening.
Exactly.
Terry thinks he's onto something because he's got a reading. And what happens?
He activates a bomb.
There is an explosion, and it turns out that it's an old World War II bomb, and that is why Larry did not want them digging down there.
Which I called.
You thought it was going to be a bomb, yeah?
I knew it was going to be a bomb.
Yeah? Well done, you. And that's the end of episode 3. What did you think?
I feel it's really good.
Yeah, real good, right?
Yeah, it gets... I think the show, once it, everything falls into place and it just starts building momentum, I think it just gets better and better.
It's a beautiful slow build of characters and moments, and you're not slapped in the face with a character backstory in the first episode. It's built. It goes on as well. Sophie ends up being a great character.
Yeah.
She
gets development.
she flips on the Antique Researchers as well.
I was gonna say I always say I've always liked Mackenzie Crook ever since back in the original Office.
Yes, he's very good in that.
He's very good in that. Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously.
Yeah.
So he's always been good at playing these characters.
Yeah, Mackenzie Crook's a very good comedic actor.
Yeah.
And he wrote this as well, which is super impressive.
Yeah, and he wrote to both him and Toby Jones' strengths as well.
Yeah, I don't know if Toby was attached from the beginning, but he's definitely a good person to play.
Glad they got him.
Yeah, me too. Whether he was written for him or not, it's just good that he's there.
I mean, he's even if it wasn't written for him, he just read the scripts and goes, "Okay, I can make this work.
I'll smash this."
Exactly.
And the good thing about comedy as well is that there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to just the gags.
Yeah.
And if you're a talented enough kind of actor and comedian, they'll let you improv, and they may even keep it in.
Exactly.
Yeah. As long as you do a version with the written version first, I think.
Yeah.
So good. I'm glad you like The Detectorist. This is one of those ones that it's very understated. And I think some people have trouble with that because they hear it's supposed to be a comedy and they're like, well, I'm not bawling my eyes out, crying with laughter.
But when we were watching it, I was thinking about most of the other comedies we've watched, like Bored to Death, Shrinking, even Barry.
Yeah.
They've always been I feel like understated comedies are ones that we seem to gel with the most.
I agree, but what I think about this one is I think this is probably more understated than all of those.
Yeah, because it's very British.
Yes, it is, especially Shrinking, because Shrinking shrinking's quite in your face.
Yeah.
Although it's very realistic characters, they swear a lot. This
Yeah.
isn't like that. This is very British.
Yeah. I was thinking of This Country as well.
Yeah, again, the characters aren't as daft as This Country.
Yeah.
Kerry and Curtin are a lot crazier than these guys.
Yeah.
These are more grounded for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you liked it. So, what are we doing next time, Tim? Oh, wait. I know what we're doing next time, Tim. Come on, you can tell everyone else.
Woo! Let's finish this. So, we're going to wrap up our little mini Evil
Series
Dead-a-thon.
within a series / over 2 series.
Yes, our Evil Dead-a-thon, our one that has branched into season 2. But one thing that we pointed out in the last episode, well, there's going to be 2 major things that happens with DC, but the one thing that we pointed out with the last episode was how in Evil Dead 2, they embraced the kookiness of what the first Evil Dead was. We are now going to take a look at the most 2 recent movies, and they went the opposite direction, let's say.
Okay.
So with the first one we're going to look at is the Evil Dead remake made in 2013. And when I say the Evil Dead remake, I mean they recreate the first movie. But they go the other way, where they go full horror.
Is Sam Raimi make this one?
No, it was produced by Sam Raimi, but yeah, so 2013 was directed by Fede Alvarez.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, yeah, we're going to completely remake the first one, but go full on the horror and literally no comedy.
Oh, that's a shame.
It is a shame. But then we're going to look at, I think this is probably the most recent thing we've looked at now, Evil Dead Rise.
Okay.
Which was directed by Lee Cronin in his second feature film.
Only a second.
Only a second. And this one, it's a darker take on it, but it has elements of dark humour, which I think you'll appreciate. And this one's not set in a cabin in the woods. It's set in a high-rise apartment.
Okay.
And as you know, Bobby, I have been obsessed with this movie.
Yeah, you've watched it like 12 times in the cinema or something.
4 times. Let's not over-exaggerate. Come on, I'm not that obsessed with it.
Liar.
But yeah. So these are also 2 movies that were not handled by Raimi. He produced them, but he had no input on the script.
It wasn't hands-on.
He wasn't hands-on with it. So it'll be interesting to see your reaction to these movies when there's no Raimi involvement.
Okay, we'll see.
We'll see.
And also modern technology.
Yes, modern film technologies. So, yeah, we'll be covering those in 2 weeks.
Awesome. If you want to find me on the socials, I am bdavies_creative. You can find me on Instagram and Threads. I've been trying to use that. You can also find Purpose Wrestling, which I co-produce with my good buddy David Francisco, at Purpose Wrestling everywhere except Twitter/X, which is Wrestle Purpose because someone stole their handle. Follow us on YouTube as well and Patreon, one or the other, because you could be a member on either of those and get some good content. Where can we find you, Tim?
You can find me on all the socials at the Tim Martini.
Oh, so egotistical.
Of course I am. And if you want to follow the podcast on both Instagram and Threads, and the TikTok, of course, we are at CC Society Pod. And if you'd like to send us an email, it's ccsocietypod@gmail.com. I've been Tim Martini.
I'm Bobby Davies.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Oh,